Paula, hey, congratulations um on Aluna here on Sentinel of the Shards.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to bring up because for yourself as a Hollywood actress who has done like Harold and Kumar, The Shield, and now On the Block, no one would imagine you to be in this world of comic books and video games. What
Yeah.
how did that happen?
So I went to Comic-Con back in 2008 and had no idea what Comic-Con even was back then. I was very lucky. I was part of the Knight Rider reboot. I was on The Shield, and we had just finished the first Harold and Kumar, and we were trying to gather buzz for Harold and Kumar, if you can believe it, back then. And just found a lot of love, and it's like I found a community of like my people, right? I was like, oh my God, everybody's reciting lines from their favorite movies, dressed up as their favorite comic book characters. I'm like, that's what I do for a living. So I get what these people are about, but very quickly realized that even though like 70% of the con is POC, right? It's Asian Americans, Latinos, it's African Americans, or whatever other, right? Everyone buying gifts and toys and artwork and comic books, but nothing that really represented like my community, my people, in a positive way, in a positive light, especially females at that time. And so it was like a bummer when I went home, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And so people around me who loved me and work with me, they were like, well, stop complaining, stop whining and create your own. And I was like, really? I could just like yeah, I guess I could do that, right? And so it was a long, hard journey because I knew nothing about comic books other than like what I read on Archie comics and Scooby-Doo and like, DC and Marvel, but I really had no idea like all that it entailed. So it was a long journey as far as like a learning curve. But when I did return with my first book to Comic-Con, of course I had the jitters, like no one's going to show up, no one's going to care, but that wasn't true. Everyone showed up and people did care. And so I realized that I wasn't the only one that was yearning for representation in a medium that I really had loved and appreciated. It had a huge fan base, right? So really Aluna has grown because the fans have always been there, because the fans have supported her. So I did book one, the fans bought it, gave me support, gave me the oomph to do the second one, and then so on. And so up to date, we have 8 books, if you can believe it, which I'm really proud of. And then during that time, because of the Comic-Cons and because Comic-Con has become like not only just for comic books, but video games and movies and TV shows, it was exposed to video games, the character of Aluna. And we were fortunate enough to, there was a gentleman there from a game, an online video game that was kind of like the competitor to League of Legends, called, Han. It was Heroes of North. And he basically was like, we love Aluna and we love what you're trying to do. We get it. And actually she like can cross over into our world really well, and I think she would do well. And he had the foresight to see that guys and girls that were playing and anyone who was playing that video game around the world would dig it, and that they wouldn't care that it was a Latina, that actually that might be something that might intrigue them. And he was right, and I was glad that he was right, because at her height she was being chosen for play 90,000 times a day worldwide, which proved to me yet again that I was like, oh my God, people are starving to be seen. Not just me. It's not just my big mouth, right? And my ego. It's other people that see themselves in me, right? Or that see themselves in something that I represent, maybe. And so it really gave me a lot of courage to keep on talking, keep on searching for a voice, to be really seen, and also to have creative control, not only in front of the camera, but behind, right? Behind the scenes. And so that's what the journey of Aluna really has been about. And the comic books really were a lot of questions that I had about like my own history, like how did I get to the States? Like, yeah, I know I was born in New York and my grandmother was an immigrant who came to from Colombia to New York in the early 60s, but really, like, what is the Latino experience? Because it just seems like we're not really taught that in school. And I love, you know, New York City public elementary school, and I love teachers, and I appreciate what they have tried to do, but there's a gap there for our history in this country, especially people who are, you know, come from immigrants. It's like, it just seems like all of a sudden we just poof appeared and we're all here, right? Trying to be seen still, right? And it's not true. There's a rich culture of ancient civilizations, of a lot of magic that still hasn't been explored. Like, I don't know, in American television, we explore a lot of like the Greek mythology, and for good reason, and the British Empire and a lot of Europe, right? But we don't really discuss like ancient civilizations of South, Central America, and the Caribbean, and how that has mixed with Asian people because of the seas and oceans. And, you know, we have an Asian character named Chang that's very prominent in the Aluna comic books. And so it was done very purposefully, because it was something that I was living in my own life. In my own life, I lived in Flushing for many years. So Asian people have always been just there, and my partners in crime, and in also this like search for being seen, right? Mm-hmm. And they have been very good partners, because of Asia, Aluna was able to prove that there was with numbers, concrete numbers and data, that there were people willing to spend money on her, right? So I'm very appreciative of that. Also, they were my neighbors every day, and so grateful that they were, because wonderful things came from that. But again, the comic book started out like that, as a search of like my own ignorance for my own sake. And then quickly it was like, okay, so let's make her fun. She's going to look like this, and she's going to have these powers, and let's make her an underdog so people can care about her and go through her journey and want to see her succeed. And it has romance, and it has action, adventure, but still very much with the mysticism and magic and culture of these ancient civilizations that I was talking about. But because the Aluna character is half goddess, that's ancient South American, Central American goddess, and half conquistador Spaniard, she has this kind of inner battle as well, where she wants to be at peace with both sides and hopefully have them meet and be able to coexist with each other without like being in this war. And I think that's something that a lot of us have too. A lot of Latinos in this country, we come in a lot of flavors, colors, sizes, or whatever, because we have these two heritages that kind of collide, And so what it is to be a Latino in this country is a lot of things that is not easy to just talk about in like one sentence, right? But we are forced to sometimes, so that we are able to be placed in this box or that box. So I hope that Aluna, if people discover her and actually go try to see buy the comic books and read them, and then try to play her on Han, and then now play her in her own video game, I hope that people start to, not only have fun with a Latin character in the forefront, especially a woman, but also like while they're playing, they're going to be in this world where it's going to be very mystical, and it's going to be South America, sometimes Central America, sometimes the Caribbean, sometimes in the ocean. And we're going to be talking about all of these ancient civilizations. I hope that people go like, wow, what is this? Is this real? Is this something that we do come from? And they do their own research and discover all these things. I think for that reason, the game is going to be able to be played by the entire family. I think I think moms and dads are going to be like, what is my kid talking about? And they're going to want to play because it's very playable by everyone. And I hope that it actually starts up some really cool conversations about like who we are as a people here, especially people of color, you know. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
Well, I guess we're done. No, just kidding. How closely does this follow your comic book series, your 8 comic book series, or is this an entirely new storyline?
No, it follows it very closely. Yeah, we took liberties because we have to create, you know, different monsters and different entities and different characters for the video game. So there's a lot of surprises in the video game. So it's not like you can read the 8 books and already know exactly what happens in the video game, but the video game does follow the adventure that she's on, the quest that she's on very closely. But because it is a video game and we had an opportunity to create different things and new things, there's definitely different monsters, different gods, different tribes that she's going to run into, a lot of shamans that are going to basically deliver news about what power she can use or she can't use and when can she use it. And you know, it's an RPG game, so there's a lot of like loot, and you get different weapons if you complete different things, but always with cutscenes coming in and driving the story and letting you know like what's happening with your character emotionally, if that makes sense. So I think in that sense, our RPG game, the Aluna Sentinel of the Shards, is going to be something that's going to be like exciting and cool to do, because it's basically playing the comic book, but with like new things coming alive, you know.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about lending your voice, and did you do any motion capture for the cutscenes?
So we didn't do any motion capture. I hopefully for the next game, we can upgrade a little bit our budget and do that, because that would be really cool. But I had I've always dreamt of doing, you know, voices for video games or for motion comics. It's an art form that I've always loved. And when I got the first opportunity to do that on Heroes of North, I had a blast. And I really commend the people who created Heroes of North at the time, because they didn't see me as just like, oh, that's just some actress who wants to, you know, do this little character because of her ego or whatever. They really gave me a real voice. I had a lot of meetings with them, and they asked me my opinions on different skins, on different weapons. They asked me my opinion on, well, what would she say if she was battling this guy or that guy, whatever. And I would just tell them like how I was feeling as the character, and they used a lot of it. So I really, I don't know, it was like the first time where I was like, okay, you know, they don't think I'm just like this ditzy actress trying to play a video game. They really are taking my opinions into account. And I think it's what made the difference. I think that's why people were like infected by it. Like they loved playing her, and they liked hearing my voice. Sometimes it was funny and people made fun of it, and sometimes people dug it. But either way, they had fun. And that's just, I don't care. You can laugh at me, you can laugh with me. As long as you're having a good time, I feel like I did my job. And so that was the first time that I did that. And so when I got to do it in my own project with her own game, like Aluna in her own video game, the star of her own game, it was just a dream come true. And we had sessions in the studio. Some of it was during COVID, like when it first hit. And it was just a nice distraction from everything else that was going on, and a big reminder of how appreciative I should be that I'm privileged enough to get to do this for a living. So it was at a time where I really appreciated working and lending my voice to something that I had worked so hard for. So it was a dream come true again, you know.
I'm curious, how close is Paula here to the character Aluna in personality or character wise?
I hope really close, because I really admire Aluna. Like everything that Aluna is basically all my hopes and dreams of how I see myself. But you know, obviously we don't truly see ourselves the way we are. We need our families and friends to keep us in check. You know, I don't know how it is in your family, but in my family, just when I think I'm like, oh, I have a good day, I'm digging myself, boom, somebody comes in and tells you the truth. And it's usually like an aunt or a cousin or your sister, you know? But yeah, I mean, close in the way that she's a dreamer, she's a fighter, she wants to be heard, she wants to be seen, but she leads with love and compassion. And that's something that I, you know, whenever I have to lead in any type of a project, I just got the first opportunity ever on a show that I'm on called On My Block on Netflix. I got my first opportunity this season. We're in 4th season right now. We're currently in production. And this is the first time that I've been given the opportunity to direct. And it was really important for me. And it was a dream that I've been pretty much since I've been acting for 32 years. And for 32 years, I've had that dream that one day maybe I'll be able to direct. Sometimes I sabotaged myself and didn't do it because I didn't think I was capable of. And sometimes, frankly, I didn't get the opportunity, even though I have a big mouth and was asking for it. Well, this time on this show, and because of Netflix and because of the showrunner herself, a woman, Lauren Unerick, I got the opportunity. And man, it's just been a pleasure, and I would love to do it over and over again. But one of the things that I learned very quickly is that if you don't, especially as a director, if you don't lead humbly, if you don't come in there as a humble leader, people are not going to dig you. And if it's a crew of many people with many jobs, right? It really does take a village to shoot a TV show. It's not about you, and it's not about your ego. It's about many egos and many people and a lot of experts around you, just trying to make sure that you do a good job and deliver a good product. If you don't go in there as a humble person, you know, saying like, I'm here to service all of you guys, the actors, the crew, all the departments. And when I don't know something, I'm definitely going to ask the experts and lean on all of you guys, because you guys are here doing the show every day. If you don't show that respect, very quickly people will shut down and not really care about what type of work you do. So I don't know, I always try to lead with humility. I don't know everything. I'm constantly learning. But if you need an answer from me, I will make it my business to try to get that answer as quickly as I possibly can. And so I think all of those things, people, I hope, can pinpoint them in the Aluna character.
I think that's great, especially the fact that I never got past the first season of On the Block because I was so sad at the end of that season. I didn't know if I want to continue, but I guess.
Oh, please continue. Please continue. One of the things that I love about our show is that the core 4 or 5 kids on the show, they really are their own heroes. And I don't want to really give anything away, but I will say, all of the characters get redeemed somehow, which is awesome. And especially like the gangster characters, we have never really seen cholos be depicted with having a heart, with having a real lives, real issues that they have to deal with. They're always these like one-dimensional characters, not on our show. And their story arc in particular is completely it just takes me, it really crept into my heart. Even though I'm on the show, I can still watch it and be a fan of all of the other storylines. And I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the writing. The writing is so clever. All of the kids speak really well and intelligent, but with this like quick wit and humor. That's very much what our kids are like today. You know, we we grown-ups, right? If I consider myself a grown-up, most of the time I'm not, but we grown-ups really do underestimate young people. And I don't understand why we do it. Young people are the ones that are making the difference. Like, the movement is driven by young people, and they're forcing us to listen. And I hope we do. I hope we do. I certainly am. I certainly am. And I'm having an incredible time being on a show that's considered young adult, YA. It's been a wonderful journey for me and for my career as well.
And then I will definitely go back to binge
Please
that.
do.
For sure. Of course, before I let you go, one of the things that everybody always will know you for is being in Harold and Kumar. What do you suppose that made that show those movies so successful back then? But could it still happen today, like those type of movies?
So obviously the movie industry is having its own difficulties for the obvious reasons. But I think one of the things that one of the reasons why Harold and Kumar did so well is because we were considered ahead of our time back then, tackling issues of interracial kisses and marriages and relationships, and a buddy film with two Asians at the helm, right? That had never been done before. And then I didn't really realize it, honestly, until years later, that John and I being romantically involved in that film and having an on-screen kiss and talking about anything romantic with each other was like a first. I didn't even think about it. You know, when I got the script and it was like Maria and Harold, and Maria is supposed to think that Harold is like awesome and sexy and all of that. And then I met John Cho and I'm like, of course, this guy is hot. Like, to me, I'm like, yeah, of course, I don't even have to act, you know? And then of course I realized how much of a geek he is and how much he was gonna pull pranks on me all the time, and how like Cal is actually the opposite of his role, right? Like, John is pretty much like the straight guy, you know, like very conservative in his role of Harold, but he's the exact opposite. Like, John Cho is kind of like what Kumar is, and Cal Penn is kind of like what John Harold is. And so they're basically playing the opposite of what they really are in real life. And I very quickly realized that he pulled a lot of pranks on me and made fun of me a lot. So yeah, but I when I first met John, I was like, yeah, this guy is like super hot. But I had no idea that was like a thing, you know, like that Asian American males in particular, especially in Hollywood, were not being portrayed like that. I mean, now we have like so many Asian American stars, a lot, and I know we need a lot more, but I'm saying from back then till now, Asian Americans in Hollywood have made huge leaps, and I'm so appreciative. I'm biggest cheerleader, and I really love everything that has been accomplished by that community. But like back then, I was very ignorant. Like, I didn't even know that was going to be like a thing until years later. People were still reporting on it and thinking like, oh, you know, Maria kind of helped make Asian men hot in Hollywood, you know, like, and that to me was like just such a crazy sentence. But then I started to think about it, and I was like, you know what, I'm honored if I could help the movement in any way. And if that was my fault, okay, I'll take it. It's great. I love it. So yeah, I mean, it was like a ridiculous statement, honestly, but I didn't know that it was something that was kind of like resonating as true. So yeah, I mean, I think partly, obviously the writing was very witty, very funny, it was fresh. It was tackling a lot of the stereotypes that obviously we had all lived through and not really cared that much about, but it was making fun of them. We POC, Asians, Latinos, we were in control. And white people in the movie making fun of us are the ridiculous ones. They're the clowns. So it was a nice perspective. It was something that really hadn't been done before, right? Because we always, before that, I don't know, before Harold and Kumar, just seems like a lot, the majority of comedies or any movie really, POC, like Asians, Latinos, African Americans, we were always like the clowns, right? And so that movie was not so. We weren't celebrated like that. So I think it's because it took all those risks, right? And these two like white boys from New Jersey wrote it, you know? So it's like nothing about the movie or the script was as it seemed, right? Everything was turned upside down. So I think it was because of all of those risks that it made the movie obviously resonate with what audiences were living and appreciated and were starving to see. And yet again, it proved that taking a risk always, you know, pretty much always pays off if it's the right, you know, if it's the right thing to do. I don't know if I made sense there, but hopefully I did. I don't know. It kind of mirrors a little bit of what I'm trying to do with Aluna, you know, like nothing about Aluna behind the scenes makes sense, right? Like, you know, an actress like myself really there really isn't like a clear path for me to have made comic books or have produced video games or anything like that, right? If anything, people were like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen, or that shouldn't happen because she's not an expert in this, or that, you know, things like that, right? And so I think the Harold and Kumar movies have a lot of similarities with that. It's like a lot of it should not have made sense, but it totally did because it was real life. The same thing with Aluna. It to a lot of people is not going to make sense, but I hope people appreciate it because it is real life. A lot of people of different races, colors, you know, sexual orientation, whatever, appreciate video games and love them and want to see representation. And it does matter. I know it's corny and it's like a hashtag that's like, you know, resonating right now and repeated constantly, but I hope it keeps repeating until it's true. I mean, representation does matter in every aspect of our lives. So I hope Aluna is one of these steps like Harold and Kumar was, you know.
Absolutely, Paula. And one more thing before I let you go is now you have Aluna the video game out. What's next for Aluna? Is it going back to the comics, or you're going to hopefully get a TV or film thing going?
So we're definitely still going to produce the comic books because the comic books always have, like I said, have been driven by fans. And the fans are definitely asking, you know, for it to continue. And we have a lot of ideas of how that can continue. And for the video game, we'll see, right? Like the video game drops May. On Xbox, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Steam. And people can get information about the game at alunagame.com. They can definitely purchase the comic books at theworldofaluna.com. Everyone can follow my social media. I'm always talking about it. On Twitter, I'm Paula Garces 1. On Instagram, I'm The Real Paula Garces. And on Facebook, it's Official Paula Garces. So they can do that. But I think the natural step, if everything goes according to plan, which it never does, but hopefully this one can, you know, it can be realized, is a TV show. I would love to see Aluna as a TV series. And I hope Netflix is listening, especially since they've embraced me being behind the camera. Let's see. Hopefully we can, those are definitely conversations that we're having, and not just conversations, they're serious conversations that we're having. So hopefully they'll be realized. But I'm asking, that's why I'm here with you, speaking with you. I'm pleading for support. I need support, you know. I need, when I asked for support when she was on Han, I got it. When I asked for support for the comic books, I got it. So now I'm asking again for the same support for when she's the head of her own video game.
Well, I think that's great. I'm going to grant you support, and
Thank you.
I already follow you on Twitter, and I know you followed me back. So this is terrific.
Yeah. Sí. You see that? Sí se puede.
So thank you very much, Paula, for speaking with us, and I'm going to follow closely, and hopefully we get to do this again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You have a beautiful day. Stay healthy, stay safe, but don't forget to smile. Well, you're not. You're smiling, so it's good.
Most excellent.
You too.
Next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.